transcript, if you can think of it, it's almost like a work of art. I would recommend doing standardized testing. California Achievement Test is one of the tests that we use as a family. To think of any curriculum you choose to use is going to be more like tools. They're hammers and saws and levels, right? How you use them determines the quality of the education. I would say Master Books falls more in the philosophy of don't push too fast too soon. We encourage a lot of play. We encourage a lot of developmental things like building stamina, building focus and attention span. There's things that we want to do to protect the growth process. If our brain experiences pain and discomfort during something, that's how we process that experience every time. Good morning, moms of Master Books and all of the Master Books app users. We hope you're having a fantastic morning. I'm here with Brittany. Now, Brittany's coming off a bad cold and flu. They said it wasn't the flu, but she's been on antibiotics, pink eye. She's had it all.
It's been a fun time. But
I need help today reading questions. So she is with me. So if she has a coughing fit or whatever,
that's why.
Yeah. So, okay, so we got some good questions in. Let's just begin with some questions.
All right, Amy Schapp asked, if I have kids that are already reading level 1 type books and starting to write more words on their own, would I want to start with level 1 or level 2 of language lessons?
So I think that's a good question. Level 1 language lessons is meant to follow up with, okay, they can read, now they do a little more blending, they're building stamina, gaining confidence, developing their reading skills. Mm-hmm. My recommendation would probably be to go into level 1, do it as the 1 semester course, and some of it may be a little bit easier for them, but that's okay. Let them go through that a little bit quicker and just encourage them that we're just reviewing it, we're building skills, we're gaining confidence, and we're jumping into the program kind of at the beginning, so it's a hard place, right? But I would say if you started there, you're not going to set yourself behind to do that. And even if something is review, it's not the end of the world to have review and learn how to, if nothing else, just get some practice. Right. So I would say go into level 1. If they're terribly bored or something like that, well, then that's a little bit different of a scenario, but I think in this case, I would probably recommend starting in level 1.
Bunch of people jumping in on the Facebook Live, just shouting out, hey, Jessica, Sarah, Melissa, Desiree, Ariel, hey, Carrie. Okay, Caitlin Morris said, high school is a long way off for us, but what can parents do to be prepared for high school? I know Master Books holds up well in elementary, but what evidence shows how well it performs in the upper grades? Okay, so
let me spend a little bit of time on this. It's interesting. I have somebody kind of trolling our page who's attacking homeschool and the curriculum at high school and different things too. But so high school is a bit of a different beast, if you will, in that what you're trying to do is to prepare them for graduation for whatever their goal is, right? High school diploma. A transcript is really important. And a transcript, if you can think of it, it's almost like a work of art. Like you're developing this transcript so that when you give it to the college or they have it for a trade school or whatever, you have the right requirements on it. The math, the 4 years of math, 4 years of language, 3 years of science, maybe 4 depending on the college, 4 years of history, and then a certain amount of electives. And then based on, do you have like 21 credits? Do you have 26 credits or more? It all depends based on what you're going for. And they're all based on Carnegie units. Carnegie units is 180 hours of instruction. 1 school year is 1 credit. Now, some states are different in that they apply 2 credits for a unit and different things like that. So every state is different. We definitely recommend that you connect with Homeschool Legal Defense Association. They have a great section of their page called Homeschooling Through High School. And they have sample transcripts, they have some videos there explaining it and that type of thing. So beyond that, what I recommend, no matter where you are, I would recommend doing standardized testing. California Achievement Test is one of the tests that we use as a family. There's an online version of it, so your students can take that. It gives you a good idea of, are my kids where they're supposed to be academically compared to the national averages? And I think that that's, don't be afraid to test. We encouraged that last year, and we encouraged people to share their scores. So we had a lot of people who tested in the spring and then shared their scores, and were pleasantly surprised that their students were above grade at level or whatnot. So I think that that's important, is to start the testing process. The other reason that I'm going to encourage that is because sometimes in a homeschool environment, we can be like, let's do narratives, let's do, we can be a little loosey-goosey with our testing. And then remember the first time I take you to the school, take it over to the high school to take your PSATs. And it's a little overwhelming because now you're sitting in this testing environment with all these other kids intimidated. You're not really in a good brain at that moment because you're like going into that. So if you go into the websites, there's do a search for PSAT, your pre-SATs, or I think there's one for ACTs too. And actually have your kids start taking PSATs. Who cares if they trash it? That's the goal, is to see where they are. And I think a lot of the times our kids took the test and we were able to see, like, okay, so number one, testing skills is scary. Once you took it once and had been there, we find it's easier to go back, right?
Right, because you know what to expect.
Yeah. So get them used to that environment of testing in a school, because they're going to need that if they're going to universities and get their SATs and ACT scores. The other beautiful thing about that is you can continue taking those tests, so you can actually teach to the test to get your score. Most colleges want to see a transcript. They want to see a transcript with a certain amount of coursework, and then they want to see your SAT or ACT scores. That's what's going to get you in, as well as maybe writing an essay, like a short essay on a subject or something like that. So from an admission standpoint, that's what you're going to look at. Now, I want you to think of any curriculum you choose to use is going to be more like tools. They're hammers and saws and levels, right? How you use them determines the quality of the education. So when we're talking about writing strands, you can use it as skillfully as you want, or you can use it as sloppy as you want. So the course, at some level, you have to take ownership of and help the student prepare for the high school level work. Now, I've seen Jacob's math has been reviewed by a number of people. I've seen professors review it. I know that it is by far one of the best math programs out there for algebra and geometry. And I know that if you do math lessons for a living education, principles of mathematics, you will move into Jacob's with no problem. It's very application based. It's very real world based. I know some of the moderators, I see Rick and Anna. Anna has joined us. I know her students have done, right? She can comment. Anna, I think you're doing one of the Jacobs as well. So I have no doubt about the math. The sciences, same thing. I think that the sciences, especially the new courses, the master's class courses we have, are written more from a kind of a standards level, not Common Core, but more of the academic standards of what's needed out of a typical chemistry or typical biology course or a typical physics course. History is pretty easy, and I know the Stovall courses, especially combined with the literature, he actually has a university background. He scores SAT or ACT essays and help students there. in his courses, like the American history and world history, it's developing thoughts and critical thinking skills, looking at issues and then building conclusions. It's a much higher level learning in those courses. So I believe that the history, we have a number of students who have taken those courses and gone on to college, gone on to successful careers. The writing side of it, again, I know the literature has a fair amount of writing that is excellent, and I think writing strands, and we're going to talk a lot about writing strands in the future, and we'll talk some more about it today, but I think you want to just get comfortable with the best thing I can advise. Who was it that asked that question?
That was on Facebook. That was Caitlin Morris.
The best thing I would advise, Caitlin, is pick a university next to you and look at kind of what is the end goal? What's the destination, right? If you're planning a trip, if I'm going to drive from Arkansas to New York, I want to know how much money I'm going to need, what supplies I'm going to need. Do we need to get a hotel halfway through? Where's the traffic going to be busy? And I kind of prepare my trip based on the destination. And even though your student may not go to that university, the tension that exists is, what if they were going to go to this university? What would my student need to have those skills? And then just kind of evaluate, like, is that the direction we're headed? And is that what we're making a priority, right? So learning how to do testing, learning about transcripts, so you understand, they did 1 year of algebra, that's 1 credit in math. They did a second year of algebra 2, there's second. Geometry, there's 3. Maybe they did trig, or maybe they did a business math or an accounting or whatever, there's 4 units of math. Does it meet the requirements of that particular university? And just kind of face your worst fears. I think I've done a teaching tips on that as well, but I have no doubt that the curriculum we're producing is every bit as solid as other curriculums that are available. And I think because a lot of it is real world based and application based, it actually prepares your student better for a university environment. Doesn't mean that all professors are going to enjoy the worldview your student has, but it does mean that they're able to think and process thoughts and that type of thing. Okay.
Awesome. Back to the Q&A in the Facebook. God's Design for Life and God's Design for Life Beginners. How well do the two fit together with alternative schedule? I'm wondering if it will be a lot more work to have kids doing both, or if it would be easier to have the younger ones first and second listen along to God's Design for Life with my 5th grader, or do I just use God's Design for Life Beginners and add things to beef it up for the older one?
No, I would use both. I would recommend using the beginners and then using the schedule that combines the two. Because I think your beginners are going to get a lot out of the basic course, and I think your olders are going to get something more out of the older course, and just have them work together. We're not talking, the work is kind of done for you. There's a lesson plan, and you can combine on some things. If they're doing a certain experiment, you could combine that way, and you could coordinate. But I think for the families that have done both, I haven't heard any negative feedback for combining the life. So that's my recommendation.
Nikki Powers, my 4-year-old started reading on his own at 3.5 and is now reading at a 2nd to 3rd grade level, maybe higher, but he is a typical boy in the writing department. Fine motor skills are not there, though we are working on them. He's also autistic, so there's a fine line between pushing too hard on one thing and boring him to tears on the other. Any advice as to where to place him next year for kindergarten? He's also just mostly listened in on older brother's lessons as he pleases, and done a cheap math workbook in addition to reading to me whatever he chooses pretty much whenever he feels like it.
So from an academic philosophy, this is where there are a lot of philosophies. I would say Master Books falls more in the philosophy of don't push too fast too soon. We encourage a lot of play. We encourage a lot of developmental things like building stamina, building focus and attention span, and those things. So I would recommend, our typical would be 1st grade. The student should have developed a lot of those skills so that they're ready to do reading. So it shouldn't take a whole year to do foundation phonics. You should be able to do that in a semester and then move into the basic language skills 1. If he's already reading, maybe moving into basic language skills 1, so that there's that level. Because you have the autism and he's on the spectrum, there isn't really, so much of what we do academically is built on an average, and then we have to customize to the student. So I would start at grade level and see how he's doing there at the first grade level 1 type things, and build slowly into it. It's not overwhelming. If math is an issue, try the K math, and even if it's review and easy, let him build that confidence. You got time. I mean, it's not, there's plenty of time. So in kindergarten and first grade, like what you're trying to do is not create pain points in the brain, right? Our brain is wired in such a way that as we do things, the more we do things, the more repetition we do, the more Millennium builds on the brain circuits and wires it in, makes it easier, and it's a protected circuit. There's things that we want to do to protect the growth process. If our brain experiences pain and discomfort during something, that's how we process that experience every time. That's why, if you've suffered some kind of trauma as a child, certain triggers will bring up bad feelings. We don't want that to happen with education. We want education to be a pleasant experience, a fun experience, a joyous experience. And when we create these pain points around learning, we will fight that all the way through their academic career. So that's what we're trying to accomplish, is not overwhelming them, giving them enough that they need, and trusting that you as the parent are smart enough to figure out if you need to add some reinforcement to it or find some other skills to build on it. But it's not making this pain point of every time you learn, it's going to hurt.
Right. Awesome. In the Facebook Live comments, Georgia Gladfelter, who is actually the mom who helps us produce Science with Delaney.
Yes.
She said, "Thank you for these live streams. I listen while letting my kids have a break. This is good information for me."
I look forward to someday Delaney being able to do some Master Books
She's so cute.
lives. She is so good.
Okay, let's just pull up. Chase and Melissa Rampy asked, "I'm looking for more information on stepping stones and how it compares to the current preschool bundle."
Okay, so the existing preschool bundle is a little bit more faith foundational. It's more of a skill-based type program. Stepping Stones is more of a developmental program, that there are certain developmental skills that are needed in order for students to have a solid academic foundation. Motor skills. I have a son who he was brilliant intellectually, didn't really spend a lot of time developing motor skills. His handwriting and getting him to work with fine motor skills is a struggle, because his brain, there's such a disconnect between those fine motor skills and his intelligence. Now, at a very young age, he was drawn towards very technology. He was drawn towards intellect, right? He wasn't drawn towards a lot of play and those type of things. And so, looking back in hindsight, I can see it would have been really good for him to have spent more time developing some of these skills like stamina, focus. Let me tell you what, I am reading a book. I'm going to go on a tangent.
No, here we go.
Got
it started.
About focus and what a problem it's becoming in our culture to do deep work where we actually focus. And I find we are so distracted by technology and interruptions and Facebook and dings and pings and you name it, that our ability to actually focus, and what they're finding is people who can focus and concentrate on a task at hand are actually accelerating above their peers. Well, how do we do that when we have so many distractions? We can hardly focus on a conversation with somebody. We can't hardly watch a 5-minute YouTube video. And now we've got things like TikTok coming, which are, what's a TikTok video? Like a minute?
It's under a minute.
Under a minute video. And you just get there, bang, 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 bang. And the brain is having a terrible time with this. So one of the things we have to work with our kids, and why Stepping Stones is so important, is It's developing critical thinking skills, focus, stamina, motor skills. It's really focused more on laying a foundation for the holistic. I say it's more holistic as an educational approach than let's just dive into math. Let's just make sure the kid can recite their ABCs so grandpa and grandma go, wow, you know?
Tara, nope, wrong one. Kelsey asked, she said, 1, info on stepping stones and language lessons 1 for newbies. I've seen convos on comparing to current options, but want info for someone who doesn't have experience.
Can we say it again?
Info on stepping stones and language lessons 1 for newbies. I've seen convos on comparing the current options, but want info for someone who doesn't have experience.
Yeah, again, it's very developmentally appropriate. And then I think, so stepping stones, I just kind of did my whole rant there. And I see Carrie Bailey jumped in. So any additional information I should have, Carrie, love to have you weigh in. As far as language lessons for a living education, it's pretty much now lays the foundation for the rest of the language lessons for a living education series. It develops a lot of critical thinking skills. It's interesting. Okay, so this year I'm working with one of my sons, and he's older, and he's done a lot of grammar. And we moved into writing strands, and he's like having a hard time with writing strands because he's like, Dad, I know where's the nouns and verbs and all this stuff. You know, I circle the nouns, do the verbs, highlight the direct object, and take the test. And that's what I do. He hasn't really been encouraged to think about how to communicate. What I love about language lessons and the way that Kristen did it is there's things like, look at a picture. What do you see? Communicate what you see. And it's funny because sometimes I'll watch reviews and I'll see people come into the series and they're like, you know, oh, I hate the picture studies. And it's like, but you're kind of missing it. It's not about a picture study. It's about helping the brain understand how to process information and communicate that, because that's where my son is. He's like, that's just brilliance, and he knows all about the logistics of grammar, but communicating the idea is where he struggles. And just something as simple as let's look at a picture or let's listen to a song and then let's just discuss it so that they begin getting used to processing and the critical thinking skills to use words to convey their feelings and emotions or that type of thing is so important. And so language lessons for living education really, to me, is a great starting point to learning how to use grammar to communicate. And it's the connection between the grammar and the communication side that I love about that series. I am planning on bringing Carrie Lindquist, the author of Foundation Phonics, along with Kristen, Language Lessons for Living Education, and do some very detailed seminars in the groups, in the app, and in the Facebook group to really kind of help understand how to use the curriculum, what the intent is, what the takeaways are, and then how to build on it. So more of that will be coming in the future.
Donna Lewis over in the app right now, she asked, is Adventures in Creation coming out this year?
Yes, Adventures in Creation is scheduled for like April.
Book 2, right?
Yep, and it's Adventures in Physical Science is book 2, so that should be out. The manuscript is in-house. Design already has a template for it. I know they're discussing some of the details of it, but it's in the catalog. It's supposed to be out in April.
Again, in the app, Tara asked, are kids expected to read even basic CVC words before starting language lessons 1? We are doing Simply K, and it doesn't teach reading, and he's not ready for foundations. Will he be okay for level 1 next year?
If they can't read CVC words, the recommendation is to start with Foundation Phonics. Unless they're basic CVC words, I have to check that to be sure. I think right now is if they're reading CVC words, then they're able to, actually I'm taking it back. If they're reading CVC words and reading, they're able to move on. If they're not reading CVC words, Foundation Phonics. If they still need some development of their reading skills, then Language Lessons 1 would be the best place to go for that.
Kelsey asked, what subjects can be done family side with multiple ages, and how do you suggest doing that?
Well, we know God's design can be done family style. The histories can be done family style. All of America's story, world story, those type of things. I think science can be done family style. So I think where it gets more specific to the skill would be more in the math, where you're building on skills. And so it's harder to have the family do addition when you have multiple skills that you need to keep building on. And I think language is another one that you can learn at some levels and do it, but you have to be more creative as the teacher because you're spanning multiple skills.
In the Facebook live stream, where did that question go? Amy asked, when will Stepping Stones be out?
Stepping Stones is in development. It's scheduled to be out hopefully by March, I think. Carrie may know better, but I know that they're progressing fairly well through that. So,
Tara, over in the questions that were asked before, more info on the philosophy and process of teaching a child to read. We used different program before, and because of new materials coming out.
Yeah, rather than me speak to that, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna bring in Carrie Lindquist and Kristen and just have a discussion about the Master Books philosophy and the way that we teach. Teaching a child to read is a lot like teaching any skill. There's a lot of different methods. Some are going to work well with some students, and others are not going to work as well. I think the idea behind Foundation Phonics is for a homeschool mom who is, craziness is everywhere. You can buy very comprehensive Foundations reading programs, right? And they take hours. Like you could spend hours a week teaching your child how to read, and they're great courses, and you're going to spend a couple $100 or more on some of these reading programs. And for some moms and some families, that's a great option. There are some moms who the one thing that scares them most about homeschooling is teaching their child to read. I think potty training is harder, right? I do, but that's like a big obstacle, is teaching your student to read. And so the idea behind Foundations Phonics is laying a foundation of it's very simple. It's not a complicated method to teach the reading process. And so that's where there's simpler lessons, engaging stories, and the students begin reading fairly quickly, and so they're excited. Because all of a sudden they can read words very quickly in the lessons. And for those families that don't have hours and don't have the resources, it's just a really good solution to solving that problem. So I know some of the moderators, I know like Jessica's weighing in, and I know she's used it to teach the Foundation Phonics to her students and some different ones. I'd love for you guys to comment as well. But I think it's designed to do what it does do, and it's kind of a no-nonsense approach to reading. Let's get the kids reading and then practice as they continue to develop their skills.
Definitely. Nancy goes, Brittany is back. Hi, Brittany. Hi, Nancy. Hope you're having a good week. In the questions that you posted last night, what are the main differences between elementary Bible and English grammar and language lesson 6? And that's from Petra.
Elementary Bible and English grammar was one of our best-selling courses. Language lesson 6 takes a lot of that content, incorporates it into level 6. But then it builds on it, and it uses some of the things that we've learned from language lessons 2, 3, 4, and 5 about building critical thinking skills, developing the ability to communicate thoughts and ideas. It's a continuation of the series, so it kind of merges what was best-selling in elementary Bible and English grammar with the language lesson series. So it's kind of a hybrid of the two, if you will.
Angela asked, my daughter is starting high school in August. She is not a strong writer. She is working on writing strands this year. I am debating on doing American Lit and writing strands. Will this be too much? Does American literature focus on writing? I like the books that American literature will focus on, just struggling here.
So the American Literature course, those courses were designed a little bit different. The person that really has worked with most with that course is one of our editors here, is Craig Froman. His suggestion is don't worry about doing everything in the course. Worry about just, pick the books that you would enjoy working with, and then write and do, you tailor this a lot. So this is one of those tools that's multi-purpose. You can use it in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. If your student is struggling with writing, you may do a hybrid of the writing strands has a literature component to it every other week. So let them pick the books that you're interested in and let them write about that. So not just do the literature, but also let them, do kind of a book report or summaries of different components of that literature. I think if you did writing strands and literature and you combined some of the classic literature, I think you would have enough in that to develop the writing skills. Mm-hmm. And, I wouldn't, the American Literature, World Lit, and Brit Lit make an assumption that your student is writing pretty fluently at that level. So with a struggling, I would probably suggest really just continuing to build those communication skills with the writing strands.
Over the live stream in the app, Amanda Epperson asks, junior high literature options?
Junior high literature options? Well, we leave that pretty open. We only endorse books that we have reviewed and looked at and know for the most part. And so we do have the book, I think it's 50, the Christian's Guide, Companion Guide to 50 Classics, that gives some of the classics that students can begin with. That's more probably, you could do a junior high to high school.
Desiree chimed in the app and said you could also use the 50 Christian classics with writing strands instead.
Yeah. So I think that would give you a good hybrid with the two, and that's the way we have it in the catalog now. Is the 50, the companion guide is kind of an easy way to incorporate some literature into the writing strand.
Vicky also in the app asked, when can we order the fall catalog? Will be first year with master books.
Okay, so it's actually, this is a spring catalog will be coming out. The fall catalog is already, you can get that on the website. You can download that. We're probably about 3 or 4 days away from sending it to printer. So by the end of next week, the digital copy of the catalog should be available. And then it will be mailing in about a month. We don't allow, we're not going to allow ordering it online until the mailing has taken place, because a lot of times people will go and sign up and it just causes a lot of extra duplication of work. So I'm going to say you're probably going to be able to order the catalog in about a month, but you will have, the catalog will be available to download in about a week.
Awesome. Back to the Q&A. Are there any additional God's Design books in the pipeline? If the God's Design for Beginners books in the pipeline, remix. Are there any additional God's Design Beginners books in the pipeline? If so, what are the estimated dates for release?
Heaven and Earth is for beginners is in the pipeline. It's not on the queue yet. So we're still working with licensing and all of that. And so I don't have an answer for you. It's not in the spring catalog because it's not in the workflow. So hopefully by the end of this year, I know the files, it's been written and the files have been started, but it's just in that spot of we're trying to finalize the contracts and all that.
Awesome. Jessica asked, is there any chance that the Children's Atlas to the USA will be available by the end of summer? I'm starting my daughter in America's Story in the fall, and I think this will be a great resource for that.
Yeah, I believe it's written, and they've started the templates and that. So the goal is that would be available in the summer. That's the tentative release date.
Katie said, would love health curriculum options. Any in the works?
There's discussions with an author about a health curriculum that I would be really excited about from a Christian worldview. So yes, but that would probably be a 2021 project.
Jessica May said, writing strands is such a different philosophy for writing for us, though I have found out this year that it is working well for my child. We're using intermediate 1 for 7th grade. I want to know that if we continue with the program, that by the time we finish, she will know how to compose longer essays, etc. The papers she is currently doing are shorter. Will this get her where she needs to be for college-bound writing?
My answer would be yes. As you move into the advanced, I mean, it's going to continue to build incrementally, and it's going to build more the expectations will continue to grow as well. The philosophies are different. This isn't a format writing course, so it is written, one of our authors who grades papers for ACTs and the essay component, if he sees a format essay come in on an SAT, he will automatically lower the value of it, like it or not. A lot of courses teach introductory paragraph, 3 supporting paragraphs, conclusion. They actually will discount that and say we're not giving as many points for that as a well-written essay. So I think the Writing Strands was written by a professor and whose son became an English professor and has over 30 years of experience in the market. I think we've enhanced it and removed some friction points, but it certainly, we have testimonials from people who've gone on to become editors of papers that credit it back to the love of learning of writing that they gained at Writing Strands. So I'm not uncomfortable saying I think it's a great program for communicating. See, in college, it's different. In college, when they want you to write a paper, they're looking for you to communicate your ideas and to communicate it well. And that's where I think that Writing Strands really excels. It's more about communicating your ideas effectively through writing.
Right. Heather asked if it would be appropriate for a child to go through God's Design for Life beginners in 1st grade and then the regular God's Design
Yes.
in 4th grade.
Yes. It's not uncommon to cycle through content, right? I mean, we learn about animals, and then we may learn about animals again, and we may call it a different thing. And then we learn about life science or biology, which is, we're going to study the animal kingdoms and habitats and all of these things. So sometimes we label them as different things as they go, but really it's the same content, just expanded upon at each level. So I would absolutely do beginners in 1st grade and then look at doing it again, or the zoology course or something like that in the upper elementary.
In the app, Amanda had asked, are there plans to add high school math and plans to add to the high school math that we have right now?
Yeah, Catherine Loop Hannon, who did Principles of Mathematics, which I think is an outstanding foundational course for pre-algebra, is writing Algebra 2 course. And I have a son that is working through that so she's writing it and he's kind of working through it. And I'm excited by that. That's slated to come out in 2020 and we'll see where we go from there. But she is writing it with her husband, who is a graduate from, I think it's MIT in mathematics. So he certainly has the credentials to do a high school level math course, and they're writing it to complement Jacob's.
Awesome. Those are all the questions I have for today.
Wow, that's good. We made 36 minutes. We moved through.
Bang, bang,
bang. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, you know what? For anybody who stayed with us, what do we got? 70 people? Let's give away 2,500 reward points. What do we do?
Okay, what do we do? I don't even know.
All right. We're thinking of a location. Where are you from? Post where you're from. Yeah, the closest one to it in the next couple of seconds, we'll give it.
Okay.
Your favorite city, how's that? We'll do your favorite city.
My favorite city.
Closest to your favorite city.
To my favorite city.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the catalog is pretty awesome. We finished kind of the basic assembling it. This week we're working on the moderators, and some of the people went through it, the editorials going through it, just removing if there were places where there are typos or anything like that. And so we're in the process of cleaning it up and getting it ready to go. My deadline is Friday, so we're in a crunch to get that out. And, but man, I love the pictures. I love the images we've got. All but one image. One image is stock photo. Everything else came from homeschool families who use master books. And so that's pretty exciting.
Jessica said tackled all the questions and even threw in a couple rants. That must be a timing record.
Yeah. Erinette's from Maui. I bet it's nicer in Maui today than it is in Arkansas.
Probably.
It was like 17 this morning. Now I know we're from Buffalo, New York, and so we know what cold weather's like, but it's for some of the viewers who are in Alaska. Oh, you see anybody even close?
I haven't seen any near my favorite city.
Yeah.
Or in the same state. They're coming in like crazy in
I'm looking
both the live stream and the app.
I'm looking at the live stream too. Wow. You're going to have to become an ambassador there because
we have nobody over there.
We go there.
Well, yeah, every year. That's the biggest convention.
Yeah. Wow.
Where are my...
You'll have to
Can
pick
I
the
say
state.
it? Oh, wait.
One?
Megan Helton Calder from Livingston, Tennessee.
All right, there you go.
Bam, you got it, because Nashville is my favorite city, and that's where you'll be headed a lot. You have a lot of people heading over there.
Yeah, we're going to the Nashville Teach 'em Diligently conference, I think the end of February. Tim is going. Kristen's going to be there. I'm there. Jessica from the group is going to be there with her family. Anna, who is our customer service in the group, and she's overseeing the app. She is going to be there with her husband. And then I think Tabitha, who is one of the moderators in the group, is coming to Nashville this year, even though she lives out of state. Nashville is just a fun convention because there's so many people, and it's at the Gaylord Hotel, which is the Gaylord Hotel is a city. Yeah,
the resort. And the horticulture and everything there is just like, is that the right word for all the
plants? It was pretty
stuff?
impressive. I was like, wow, she said it. Yeah, they've got a float boat in the middle of the
there's
hotel.
Like 4 different levels of like gardens and the fountains and fish. It's incredible.
Yeah,
I go there every time I visit.
All right, so you got the name, right?
Yep, I wrote it down because I've already lost it. There it is, Megan. So Megan will get those into your account.
Awesome.
I guess she's our ambassador for Tennessee.
Wow. Well, Megan, are you coming to the Nashville show? Are you going to be anywhere near the Nashville show?
A few people jumped in. Laura said, I think it's Laura. She said, I'm headed to Nashville.
Lara. Is that Lara?
Lara.
That's a pretty way to spell it. I don't know how you say it, but I like the spelling.
Amanda was going to guess that my favorite city was Cincinnati. Or maybe that was the biggest convention. Yeah,
Nashville is probably our biggest convention. And I think in many ways it's the Teach 'em Diligently conferences are very biblical authority and faith-based. And so our audience typically tends to be drawn more to that show. Cincinnati is a huge show, no doubt, but we do real well in Nashville.
Megan's 2.5 hours from Nashville, so you should come see us at the convention. Well, I won't be there, but
definitely. We have met some of the nicest people. We don't do as many shows. The first couple of years I did a lot of shows. Nashville is one that I do, and I typically do the Rogers, Arkansas convention. And the Nashville show, we meet people who are in the group. And anytime you guys see somebody, we want to make sure you get a picture with us or somebody from the booth and post it into the moms group and let them know that you were, you connected with us, because we look back over those pictures. Tabitha is one of the moderators here. And if I can say this, but when she got to the booth last year, if Tabitha's watching, she was kind of fangirling over the Master Books booth. And she got pictures with everybody, and she was so much fun at the booth. And then when it came time to pick another moderator, it was like, well, remember the girl at Nashville who got the picture with everybody, who is like a huge fan and all of that. And so that's kind of where she got into the group to become a moderator too. So
Kathleen drives 13 hours, she said, for the Nashville one.
Wow. Yeah, the Nashville show is pretty cool. I think there were over 12,000 people attended the Nashville show, and the hall is huge, and then there's more to do. I mean, Nashville's a fun place, anyways, because you're right next to the Grand Ole Opry.
There's so much to do. Even if you don't want to be like in the city, you can still go over to like, they have like Radnor Lake, and they have different bridges that you can go see watching the sunrise at one of the bridges that are over there, or the sunset. It's gorgeous. So even if you don't want to be like in the city, and there's so much to do in the city, there's a lot to do on like the outskirts of the city. Am I going to ask the date for that again?
It's on the website under conventions, or if you hit the Teach Them Diligently website, they have all their information there as well. And I know a lot of the speakers, I think in Nashville this year, Tim was just telling me, Israel Wayne, our boy Israel, is going to be there. Todd Friel, author of Reset for Parents and that. We have Ken Ham, one of our biggest authors, our flagship author really for Master Books. Relationship goes back since he started his ministry. Ken's going to be there. And so I forget, there's some others that Tim was mentioning. There's like five authors. Ray Comfort is going to be there. And he's one of our authors. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty cool to have all the authors there too. So awesome. Thank you, Jessica, for posting that. Hey guys, well, we pray that you are having a good week. January can be a little bit difficult. I know we're doing reset right now in our homeschool. We're coming off from mom's home now from radiation, and I've kind of had house duty. We've lived in 2 separate houses, and I've had house duty for 5 weeks. And you know, I'd like to pat myself on the shoulder, but I'm not mom. And I'm like, I think if it had been 1 more week, it was all going to come apart, because I think I held it together just about as long as I could. But what's that? The axle's broken, and I forget the Little Red Wagon song.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
My axle was breaking, the wheels were coming off, it's about to blow apart. So thankfully mom came home, and you can just feel the house kind of coming back into order, and that's good. And so we know how it can be difficult.
Now I'm trying to figure out the lyrics. You can't ride in my little red wagon, the front seat's something and the axle's dragging. Yeah,
that was about what I was managing. So we've got that going, and it's you know, we're just doing resets, and we understand it's hard to get back into the groove after the holidays. We had guests. We had my mother-in-law and my son and his wife, and all these people were around, and you know, the kids' schoolwork slips a little bit. Now we have to be back to, okay, guys, let's go. It's time to be back in the groove. So we understand that, and we are praying that the Lord blesses your homeschools, and as you're looking to make decisions and all with the homeschooling, we're doing the Q&As just because we see a lot of people asking questions, and we want to give opportunity to address that. But as we move into the spring, we'll be doing a lot more concentrated, you know, especially around the language lessons, because that's a new series. And also with Carrie Bailey on the stepping stones and Simply Case, so that people understand the heart behind it. So oftentimes if you're out browsing the web and you see other groups, somebody mentioned that we have a lot of criticism. There was a post that came in, and somebody said, oh, well, this page has a reputation. No doubt, right? Because we have people who just don't get us, or people who maybe were removed from the group for one reason or another, and they're in other groups. Anytime Master Books comes up, they're like the big ambassador to come up and say why they don't like Master Books. I can think of a few names I could say that are in those groups, but a lot of times it's just because they don't understand the heart behind why we're doing what we're doing, and it's a little bit outside the box. And so because of it's outside the box, it seems a little bit non-conventional. And so what they're criticizing was actually done by intention. And so that's where we really want the opportunity to talk about things like that when you have a question, to explain why we do that. See, Melissa Caps asks, any more Math Mondays? I think Angela had pretty much addressed most of the things that she was going to with Math Mondays. And I've got to circle back around with Angela. I know she's working on a couple of things. She's working on math practice makes perfect packs, and she's going through the America story again, really doing a review of those as well as the math, I think. So she's got a lot of irons in the fire right now, and as well as being a new grandmother. So, okay. And I think Angela's in watching. Did I see Angela?
I saw her name pop up early on. I don't know if she stuck around though.
Unless I bored her to tears and she left. So, okay.
Sad.
Anything else? Practice and language lessons. Yeah, the best thing I think Sally asked, is there any extra recommendation for practice with language lessons? Writing. Just one of the best things I think you can do is read a paragraph of a book and have the student write a little paragraph or just a sentence summarizing what it is that they just read. Help them process the information that they've received to communicate that out and developing those skills. And then reading, like writing strands of philosophy, good readers make good writers. So I definitely would say get practice reading good books with good writing. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Well, guys, you have a good week, and we will talk to you Thursday in Teaching Tips. We're going to be talking about death ground, no options, placing yourself on death ground. It's a military concept, but I think it's important when it comes to homeschooling, and I think it's important when it comes to our marriages and to parenting. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.